let's see if this works. Testing, testing. 1, 2, 3. Alright, let me get rid of some of this stuff. And, by the way, I'm using a program called Livestream Procaster. And the reason for that, here, let me see. The reason for that is I used to use this before. I used to stream a couple of things, online gaming, for example. And basically, it has this really cool thing where you can come down here to the options, and over here you can click on like camera, for example, and it'll actually switch to the camera like in like the one I have here on my computer. And I think that's really cool because I mean right now there's really nothing going on up there. It's my ceiling. Oh, it's kind of lagging too. Oh, there we go. I'm not sure what's going on with that. Anyways, and then you can come back up here to the screen whenever you want, and you can even 2D mix that. See, it'll show you both cameras, and I think that's pretty cool. But anyways, back to the screen. I'm going to teach you guys how to set up a static IP address. And basically, what's this? Basically, what you got to do is, let me minimize this. You come over here to your network settings. By the way, this operating system, my computer is a Windows 7. So you come over here to your networking, the little computer here, you open Network and Sharing Center. And what happens is, this thing opens up right here. Not right now. This thing opens up right here, and what you get here is what's basically called the Graphical User Interface, the GUI. And that's basically the explanation for why Windows uses these little pictures here, just to make it more user-friendly. And I'm sure you've all seen this. This is what you see. This is basically your computer, your network, and this tells you you're connected to the internet. This is the type of network you have, home. And what you got to do is you come over here to Local Area Connection. Now, by the way, most people when they're having network problems, when they're having internet issues, usually it's recommended to just go to your router or your modem or both, and just disconnect the power, wait a couple of minutes, connect it back in. The reason for that is because it resets it resets from the ISP, your internet service provider, the guys you pay for your internet, for example, AT&T or Roadrunner. They will re-send you like another connection. They'll reissue it, and usually the connection is stronger. In fact, it's recommended to do that every couple of months, if not every month, so that your internet provider isn't like cheaping you out on it. They're not Jewing you out. So basically, you come over here anyways. To set up your static IP address, you come over here to Properties. It's going to open up this thing. By the way, over here, back over here, you see this sent, the little picture received. That's good. that means you're getting your data transfer, your bytes. Now, when you come over here, you'll get the property connection options. Now, this will be the name of your adapter for your computer. Most people who have desktops, this will be the name of your motherboard's integrated networking adapter, the device, unless you have your own separate networking card, and which, by the way, some old computers do have that. And it's the same thing. It'll just tell you the name of your adapter, and if you're on a laptop, it'll tell you the name as well. And either way, I recommend that you go online and look for the drivers. You Google the name and try to find your manufacturer's website where they'll give you the drivers. Most people's internet issues come from the fact that they have really outdated drivers because most of you never update your things. And that's true for most parts of the computer. You have to go to your device manager. For example, let's see, computer, device manager. You open this, and these are all your devices. Open all of these and see which ones have like a little yellow exclamation mark, means they're probably out of date, or you have no drivers for it, which is even worse. And you can, on Windows 7, you can try to update the driver, and Windows will try to look for it by itself. If that doesn't work, same thing. Google the name of it, find the manufacturer's website, update your drivers. Most of your computer problems can be solved by updating your drivers. But I'm getting out of topic. Back on hand, come down here to where it says Internet Protocol version 4. Not 6. 6 is going to be the new one. They've been trying to implement this one for years, but most websites over the worldwide internet have yet to switch to protocol version 6, which is supposed to be more effective, more efficient way of handling connections, and it has millions of more types of IP addresses it can hand out to every device. But for now, everyone's using version 4. So come down here, select properties. You're going to get the properties for version 4, and what you're probably going to see is on my computer, my settings have been input manually by me. So you have all these numbers here that I put. You're likely going to see this. You're going to see it's going to say obtain automatically, and it's going to be empty. The reason for that is because your router or your modem is more than likely set to, let me see. Here we go. I'm going to log in to my router, by the way. Oh, and to do that, here, let me open this this thing again. I'm going to show you the camera. Alright. This is me, by the way. Hello. Over here, shine the light. Here are my router. My router's down here with all the cables, and my modem is up here, and this is my computer. My computer, by the way, is really damn huge. I built it myself. But back on topic. Over here, most routers, most devices, they all need their own unique IP address. If they don't have that, they can't connect to the internet. That's just how it is. Most of the time, your devices will have underneath them, they'll have a sticker that tells you how to log into your devices by putting in their IP address and the password. My router, for instance, doesn't have that. But if you were to come up here to the modem, which is issued to you usually by your internet provider, back here it'll usually say, see right there, that's my access code, and there's another sticker that says over here to the right, it shows the IP address I need to put in to log on to the modem. But right now I don't need to do that. I don't need to log on to the modem because the modem is set to what's called bridge mode. So it bridges to the router, and it basically gives full administration control to the router. Now to log on to the router, I've gone to my internet browser. Oh, I'm gonna go back to the screen. I've gone to my internet browser, and I've put the IP address, and that's what happens. You get a little, like, a login prompt. And most of the time, it's very, very basic stuff. You just put admin, and usually the password is also admin. You log in, and you're going to get this. My router is a Linksys, by the way. Now, the reason all computers have this usually on automatic is because your router is set to what's called DHCP server, and it's usually enabled, which means that automatically, what DHCP does is it's like a protocol. It's a set of commands that tells your router to just automatically give out IP addresses, you know, as it pleases. So any device trying to connect to your internet will go through your router, and your router will just give it an IP address so it can access the internet. Now, I've got added options. For example, I can tell the router from where to start the IP address numbers. So I've decided on number 100. And I've told the router the maximum number of DHCP users, which means, for example, I have number 5 here. That means I'm only letting my router give out 5 different IP addresses at one time, which means I can only have 5 different devices, be it a computer, a laptop, or somebody's phone, for example. There can only be 5 different devices connected to the internet at once at my house. And the reason for that is, you know, to keep up with bandwidth. You don't want everybody taking up your internet connection. Especially if there's people outside and they're using your network if it's unsecured, then you're just kind of giving away your internet. Now, over here we'll have other options, wireless options, security, MAC filters. Now, the most important option over here is applications and gaming. This is called port forwarding. Now, I'm teaching you how to set up a static IP address. The main reason someone would have to set up a static IP addresses is for port forwarding. And I'll get to that at the end of the video. But for now, back to port forwarding. You see over here, you have to go to, you know, put manual. Now, the IP address, the first option is going to be the unique option for your computer. So you have to put a unique number. And the number has to be the same as, for example, your router. It has to be within the same, the first 3 numbers, the first 3 sets of numbers after the dots, is the type of network, let's say, just to put it simply, the type of network you're going to have. So down here in default gateway, you put the exact same number of your router, because your router is the default gateway. So the router's number that you used to get into the router in the first place, for example, 192.168.1.1, is your default gateway number. And your IP address, this is the option for your computer. So it has to be the same until the last number. For example, I'm going to put 100. Subnet mask, usually when you click on this, it fills in automatically. And that's fine. There's usually no problem with that. Subnet masks are used as a type of filter that I'm not going to get into. That's more of like a networking administration course. But suffice to say that it'll just give it to you manually. Most of the time, most computers, unless you yourself have personally gone into your router settings and messed with your subnet mask, you should be fine. You're not going to have to mess with the number. Down here, the DNS server, this part gets a little more tricky. DNS server addresses are kind of like IP addresses, but they're given to you by your internet provider. Now, to find out what your DNS is, you can what the hell is this? You can come down here. Now, on Windows, for example, on Windows 7, you can put CMD to get your command prompt. Click Enter. You'll get this black box. It's called the command prompt. You type in ipconfig /all, and you're going to get these little sets of options depending on what type of computer you have. The important thing to remember is that in this black box, if you're using what's called a desktop, you're going to want to look for your local area Ethernet adapter connection. Now, you'll notice down here with the numbers, IPv4 address. This will be the address, your internet address, your IP address for your computer that you either already have if you're currently connected to the internet, or the one that you put over here if you had already changed it, if you already messed with it. Subnet mask, you'll notice, is the same number they gave you most of the time. Default gateway, you'll notice, is the same one I just told you, the one for your router. And the important thing is down here, you see DNS servers. These two numbers, these two sets of numbers, are the ones given to you by your internet service provider. Now you'll see mine is 68.94.156.1. The second one will usually be almost the exact same number, 68.94.157.1. Those are the numbers you have to put down here. 68.94.156.1. 68.94.157.1. Now you're gonna want to click OK. I'm not going to click OK because my options are already set. And when you're in this part, you're also going to click OK. I'm just going to exit. And what the hell was that? Here we go. Now when you get back to this screen, you'll notice right away this will probably switch. If the computer screens here, the little graphics turns off, and you stop getting bytes, it's usually because you made a mistake on the numbers. You'll have no internet access. You come back here, this will change. You'll have an X or something. It'll say no internet access. But if you got your numbers right, it should be working. Static IP addresses are more stable than when using your router, because your router has to be giving DHCP addresses just all the time, constantly. Unless you always have the same devices connected every single time. And that might be common in a home setting, but if you're trying to set up a network at an office or at a business, you're going to want to set up everything perfectly so that nobody's IP address conflicts with somebody else's. Especially nowadays when people bring their phones and they're on Facebook, they got their phones either at school, at work. Those devices get an IP address as well, unless your workplace denies you to do that, but most people just, they find ways to get in anyways. That, however, is beyond the scope of my video. The point is, that's how you set up a static IP address. Now, one final note, when you've got a static IP address set up, you can do what's called port forwarding. The reason someone would want to do a port forward is port forwarding are they're numbers. These ports are like numbers, and they specify different areas from which other networks, other internets, other people, across the internet, how they distribute their data across each other's networks. And they'll send the data through packets and bytes through these ports, so before they can get to you. They have to go through the ports, they have to go through the firewall, etc., until they reach your computer, until the server, when you request data from a server, it's the back and forth. It goes through ports. When you have your port forwarded, it's the same thing as saying that your port is now open, which means they don't have to go through a lot of extra steps just to get back and forths. If that port is open and their port is open, you share the packets or the information at a very synchronized rate, at a more effective rate. Now, the reason somebody might want to do that is, for example, if you're into a lot of online gaming, if you're playing, for example, if you're playing like a Call of Duty game, if you're playing a shooter or any other type of online game, you're gonna want every players, and it's usually a lot of players. You're gonna want, like, you got like 16 people out there shooting each other in the game. You're gonna want all of them to have a very perfect synchronized connection. And the reason for that is, you'll have people lagging all over the place. People will be disappearing. You'll get shot, and then you'll be dead after like 4 seconds after you got shot. You'll be wondering what happened to you. So you're going to want everyone's connection to be synchronized. And that's just one example as to why you would want that. But if you notice over here, I have, for example, I have my uTorrent. Whenever I'm torrenting things, I have a port. And your IP address options over here is going to be the address for your computer. You want your computer, which is the one getting the data, to be the one port forwarding. Another example, if you're using your Xbox, I'm sure a lot of gamers have noticed when you're trying to play a game, your Xbox will tell you that your NAT, you have a NAT type, which is either open, closed, or semi-open. That has to do with port forwarding. Basically, you can go online and Google the type of game you want, the game you want to play, and the developers will have the ports for the players out there for you. So you put that port number over here at the starting, at the end of the port, and your IP address, you're going to want to put your Xbox's IP address, and it's the same thing. If you get on your Xbox, you can go to your settings, and you can put in manually your own IP address, just like how I told you to do the static IP address. Same thing. If your Xbox has its own IP address, you can put that IP address here, and you can forward a port for it. Now, most people like to just go to DMZ. DMZ is basically a demilitarized zone. And what that does is you enable it and you put the IP address, for example, of your Xbox, and it'll open all ports on the entire device. And most of the time you don't want to do that on a computer or on a laptop. But it's usually fine to do that on a console, which you're usually not being hacked on, or you're usually not getting viruses on. And that'll be all for me. I'm pretty sure that ran longer than 7 minutes. But I was happy to do it, and thank you for watching, and I'll see you all in class. Stop. Wow, that was 17 minutes.